morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear listeners, students, teachers, and panelists alike. My name is Denzel Frederico Velasco from grade 11, discipline group number 3. I am a HUMSS student. Our research is entitled Stories of Sorsoganans Who Experienced Martial Law Under the Marcos Regime. I would like to start off this presentation with a quote. Martial law is an experience that many of us are familiar with, but it takes a lot of egoism to declare martial law. So I hope you'll never have it unless the ruler or the leader is very narcissistic. Martial law is just an expression of a frustrated soul, according to Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. The research locale is, this study will focus on the stories and experiences of Sorsoganans on martial law under the Marcos regime, determining the different stories and experiences of the Sorsoganans towards martial law, and understanding the different point of views the participants who live in barangays San Isidro, Balogo, and Old Bibingkahan. These areas are filled with people who have experienced this event dating back in 1972. During its implementation, as a result of this, it is necessary to find out and better understand the different views of the people who actually lived through those times, and not just read them from books and articles, since this was called the dark times in Philippine history. The introduction. The chronicled affair of martial law accounts for the cause of diverse stories, unique perceptions of Filipino citizens. The presented general topic entails a significant and interesting dogma of event, which affected both the empirical and indirect phases of the Philippine history. It isn't just clothed with course of explaining the compelling roots for the enactment of martial law, but also it revolves around the overall impacts and relationship between the Philippine government and the democratic citizens.
Proceed to the research questions. This study aims to collect, associate, analyze, discuss, and narrate stories of Sorsoganos who experienced martial law under Marcos regime. Specifically, this study aims to answer the following questions. One is, what are the stories of Sorsoganos who experienced martial law under the Marcos regime? The second one is, what were the perceptions of older generation Sorsoganos regarding their experiences during the martial law implementation under Marcos regime? The last one is, what are the historical implications of the stories of Sorsoganans? Theoretical framework. Impact of martial law. Positive sides of martial law. Many regard martial law as a solution to rampant criminality and corruption, as well as disciplinary act in which people's freedom is limited. Trends during martial law. People became disciplined, eradicate criminality, promote equality and equity, remove corrupt official, eliminate any signs of terrorism. Negative side of martial law. Martial law have violated several human rights, and there are number of listed cases of exploitation. Adversities during martial law. 6 out of 10 Filipinos were poor during martial law. The country's job rose to $28.86 billion.
Methodology. Sampling purposive sampling selection criteria. Genuine older generation Sorsoganons willing to participate. Data collection procedure. Informed consent. Face-to-face step interviews. Instruments. Teacher-approved interview guide contextual individual screening. Data analysis. Thematic analysis by Wambleca 2018.
Results and discussions. Factors affecting the answers of the respondents. Controlled. Most of our participants said that during martial law, everything is under control. People are being controlled by the government, what they should do and what they shouldn't. Military control is everywhere, and even Sorsoganans experienced it. Violence. During military takeover, there are a lot of violence that happened where not everyone knows. Based on our data, there are people who experience violence under martial law. Some of these are electrical chairs, being forcibly arrested, and different physical. Poverty. Another thing that the participants experience is poverty. According to them, during martial law, life is so hard, especially for the lower class. Because of being controlled, they have limitations on what they can consume in their everyday life. Drastic panic attack. Drastic panic attack is also mentioned by our participants. Because of the threats that they experience, they can control their fear against what may happen to them during martial law. Their overflowing fears cause them to panic whenever they hear the soldiers coming. Another thing that the participants experience is poverty. According to them, during martial law, life is so hard, especially for the lower class. Because of being controlled, they have limitations on what they can consume in their everyday life. Poor economy. Sorsoganon lifestyle is also affected by means of the livelihood of people. Participants says that the economy has suffered greatly, experiencing decrease in price but low in quality of economic needs during martial law. Torture. Psychological well-being is also affected by martial law. Majority of the participants experience great amount of fear and anxiety because of gunfire and shots heard during martial law.
Historical implications. Strengthen civil authorities. Respondent B, D, and E acknowledge how martial law strengthens civil authorities. Under military control, civilians are expected to obey them. During martial law, militaries are the one controlling the civilians. According to participant 4, there might be militaries who were roaming around that time watching over us who could have mistaken us for an NPA. Insurrection of communists. There are several participants who have indicated the martial law as insurrection by communists in several regions. They prevent communists from conquering the Philippines. Without martial law, our country would be at the hands of communists. According to participant 1, the communists, in my perspective, are the catastrophic guys. Aren't they the ones who overrun Plaza Miranda? Reduce violent crimes. Martial law was implemented to reduce violent crimes. Based on our data, martial law reduces violent crimes during the time. It is reduced as the military controls the civilians. According to participant 1, there were no people on the streets, no overweight people, no one to hold you during my time in Manila.
Conclusion based on findings. Stories of Sorsoganos who experienced martial law. Martial law unruly affected the lives of individuals who have experienced its negative features and aspects. Most of our participants explained that during the years of martial law, everything is under control, exercising government domination that resulted to people's limited social and economical mobility. The prevalence of government-authorized restriction towards the country and the military rule didn't merely limit the societal interaction and citizens' physical movement. They also concentrated the economical processes and operations, creating the issue of product supplies with lower qualities and standards. Therefore, the major concern of martial law, as the participants stated, is encircled in the matter of control and limitation. Due to the national governance affecting the lives of the general and limiting the factors that were essential in all basic living styles, some group gained an amplified power that enabled them to execute lawless maneuvers, generating the perceived violence. Perceptions on the experience. During the martial law, personal lives and lifestyle of people were affected. In that, participants affirmed that life during that years was practically peaceful, but it won't be synonymous in the context of economy and product standards. It includes the statement of advantages and disadvantages regarding the presented event. Advantage is applied by discipline and social limitations. In the contrary, disadvantage is incorporated by the presence of violence and tortures. For these reasons, the quality of living experienced by those individuals is dependent upon from what they had subjectively encountered, giving them insights about the objective occurrence of martial law. Historical implications. During and after the unforgettable event of martial law, its significance and content are aware to the historical recordings of the Philippines. Various literatures and studies are published, cultural attitudes were heightened, nationalistic-like senses were developed, and the recognition of identity as civil and national individuals was determined. Due to the degeneration of martial law, civilians increased their knowledges and instinctive strength to fight and to equalize. As a country under democratic governance, people learn to demand of what is right. Additionally, historical implications include the insurrection of communists, reduction of violent crimes, and the loss of freedom of speech. Since martial law has limited the national movement of human affairs, restriction of speaking against the government is implemented legally. The fact that everything is under military control, a simple paradox, explains the reduction of violent crimes. On the contrary, the perceived tortures and violence.
Recommendations based on conclusions. First, the controlling power of martial law during the Marcos regime is inevitably legal. The best practice for these citizens and individuals who experience it may be reflected to their personal state of respect and discipline. National obligations and constitutional duty to follow and conform to the law are vital in adhering to their original nationality. Second, on the smaller cases, every individual may hold his or her own perception and understanding about the martial law. However, it is phenomenologically dependent on the perceived experience of any certain individual. Thus, incorporating the idea that there is the absence of choice whether to provide selection between positive and negative experiences. Regardless of it, people have responsibility to acknowledge, accept, and understand the prevailing laws they have. Lastly, the existence of martial law had painted thickness to the Philippine history. Historical implications are evident, resulting to the development of different phases and aspects of civil and national lives, consequently changing the course of human civil strengths and sense of seeking equality and justice. For a democratic society, individuals should learn how to strengthen their will and freedom. while embodying a deep sense of awareness towards the justice and peace.